All right, we're going to check on the replacement heifers that we brought in yesterday, make sure they're getting settled into their new surroundings, and then I'll go over a few of the traits I use to select heifers. So let's get to work. Every cattleman has their own priorities as to what they look for in a good replacement heifer, one that's going to go into the herd and hopefully be productive for them for anywhere from 10 to 12, hopefully maybe even 15 years. One of the first things that I look for and that catches my eye, just like this heifer closest to us right here, she's really deep ribbed, and that's very important to me. I really hate a shallow ribbed cow, and what I mean by that, the distance between their top line and their underline is really deep. That means or to me, I think it means that they're going to be pretty easy fleshing throughout their life. Now this heifer walking out right here, she is actually borderline being too large framed for me. I like a medium framed cow. When they're mature, they weigh around 11 or 1200 pounds. She's probably going to be a 13 or 1400 pound cow, which is all right, but she's going to consume a lot more hay in the wintertime, require a lot more feed for upkeep. So she's borderline. The other three over here are much more moderate in their frame. They still retain that depth of rib that I like, but they're not going to be as big a cow as this one we saw earlier. Another trait that's important to me is that they are smooth shouldered. They're not real bulky up front. This heifer here kind of in the lead, I think she is really smooth shouldered. It blends in nicely and smoothly with her body. This heifer in the middle, 416, she's deep rib, but she's also a little coarser in the shoulder. It doesn't blend in as smoothly. And to me, you know, the offspring of her, the calf, is going to be a little big shouldered too and might be a little bit more difficult birth. I mean, she's not bad certainly at all, but hopefully you can see how much coarser she is in the shoulder than the one right behind her here to the left. Another thing that's important is structural soundness. It might be one of the very top priorities. When they walk out, you want to see, if they will here, that they walk out with a smooth gait and they're not stiff-legged. This heifer, she's kind of, her back feet when she's walking, her back foot steps in the same track that her front foot just did, and that's perfect. Sometimes they get a little short-strided or, you know, a little sickle-hocked or something, and that's not good. But if I can get her to walk out a little bit more there. Yeah, you can see that one over there. Yeah, they're not cooperating and walking. Well, trust me, you want that rear foot to set as closely in the track of their front foot as possible. One of the other things we look at, naturally they're beef cattle, so you want them to have as much muscle as possible. This heifer on the right, if we get her turned around, she's really thick made from her rear view. Turn around, girl. Turn around. Turn around. They're all pretty good, pretty heavily muscled, but it's a long muscle pattern. I don't like a round, bunchy muscle. I like for it to be long. And you get behind them and they're really wide. And then down over, as you look over the top of them, from behind, you like for that back to be pretty wide too. So I'm real pleased with these 4 heifers that I brought home yesterday. I think they're going to be good cows. If I would have purchased these heifers off of an individual at the farm, I would have wanted to look at 2 other things to make sure they don't have any blemishes, like a spot in their eye from having had pink eye as a calf. And the other thing is their udder, their teat placement is even, and that the teat size is normal. You can get them sometimes abnormally small or abnormally big, which is, both of those are bad. These, since they've gone through that very selective sale, the Show Me Select sale, veterinarians and livestock specialists have already examined them for any defects or blemishes. And to me, that's worth another couple of $100 a head to have that taken care of and know that they're perfect in that respect. So again, to recap, the things that I really prioritize in selection of replacement heifers is depth of rib, thickness of muscle, smoothness of shoulder, and maybe most importantly, structural soundness as they're moving on the walk. And these all satisfy my requirements. Another thing on these first calf heifers or bred heifers that makes these really valuable to me is they're all bred to certified low birth weight bulls, meaning for whatever breed they're bred to, and these happen to be bred to Red Angus, the EPDs on the bull they're bred to is below the average on birth weight for that breed. Now the first calf, that's really, really important. I'd rather have a live 50-pound calf than a dead 95-pound calf by any stretch of the imagination. And these in the past, coming from the same breeder, bred the same way, they've all shelled out nice little 60 to 70-pound calves. Now after their first calf, you can breed them to any bull you want to. But that first calf out of them, it's really important they have a low birth weight calf. To me, being an older cattleman, docility is extremely important. These have only been here a day, and they're getting really settled in. You can see this one chewing her cud over here already, this middle heifer. They all, they're in new surroundings, so they're not comfortable with me yet. But as you can see, they're not running off to the far end of the corral either. And I think for most cattlemen, it's much safer to take care of docile cattle, and I think their calves grow better. If they're nervous and running around, their calves don't do well. So that's a really important trait that I want to touch on too. traditionally we start feeding hay around Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so I think we're right on time, and I think the cows really appreciated it. We unrolled a couple of bales of hay for them and start feeding them about every day now. So let's call it a day.